This is the Himiway Cobra Pro, one of the most capable and powerful e-bikes on the market right now. If you want to get an e-bike that can go anywhere you want and ride any type of terrain, this is definitely a bike you should check out. Today we're taking a closer look at this beast, going over a few tips with the initial setup. We're going to find out how capable this thing actually is, and I'm going to try and find out exactly what type of rider this e-bike suits best. Stick around, this should be a lot of fun. First off, I'm going to tell you a bit about the bike and the key specs that make this monster truck of an e-bike so special. Let's start with the frame. The Cobra Pro is built around a super strong aluminum full suspension frame. The tested and proven 4-bar link system is really plush and responsive. It has a low standover height, meaning it's easy to get on. Even for smaller people like me, I'm only 5'9" and I have no issue swinging a leg over this thing. The long 1295mm wheelbase keeps the bike stable at speeds and on the climbs. And the slack 63-degree head angle pushes the front wheel ahead of you, giving you more confidence on the steep descents. What a great combo. Helping the bike grip the ground and smooth out all the bumps is the suspension, and what a nice simple setup this is. You get an air-sprung rear shock with 100mm of travel, and check out this front fork. It's also air sprung, and it's inverted, meaning the stanchions are at the bottom instead of right underneath the crown like a regular mountain bike. This does two things. Number one, it makes the fork way stiffer, a really important thing with these heavy e-bikes. And number two, it makes the fork really sensitive to even the smallest of bumps because it doesn't have all this weight to push up, just the bottom part. Having air springs in your suspension means that you can tune it to your liking no matter what you weigh. All you gotta do is pump it up for more support or take some air out for a more cushy ride. You do need a special pump for this though, but they're only a few bucks, and I put a link to the one I use in the description. Of course, there is that sweet spot, and that's different for every rider weight. I have a link for a video in the description that'll teach you exactly how to dial in your suspension sag for the best feeling ride possible. But check that out after the video. Up next is the monster wheels and tires. The Cobra rolls on 26-inch diameter, 4.8-inch wide fat tires that roll over absolutely everything. They have a great all-round tread pattern, deep treads all the way to the outside of the tire to keep the grip on the trail, and lots of rubber in the middle for a smooth ride when you're just riding the roads. Now, an e-bike isn't an e-bike without the power, right? This beast is equipped with one of the most powerful mid-drive motors on the market right now. The Bafang 1000-watt power plant puts out 160 Newton meters of torque, up to 1300 watts of peak power, and helps to take you up to 25 miles an hour. That's almost 50 kilometers an hour for us Canadians, eh? The huge benefit to a mid-drive motor is that it uses the bike's drivetrain to propel the bike. The 10-speed Shimano drivetrain has a great gear ratio that'll help the bike climb steeper hills and get you up to speed way faster than a fixed gear hub motor. Supplying the power to this workhorse is a huge 48-volt, 20-amp-hour Samsung battery that'll let you get up to 80 miles on a single charge. We'll see about that. Himiway is known for making long-range e-bikes, so I'm sure this guy will go far as well. All that speed and power is super cool, but it's kind of sketchy if you don't have a way to stop. That's why Himiway kitted this bike out with Tektro hydraulic brakes and big 180mm rotors front and back. The seat is super comfortable and it's not too big, so it's still easy to pedal in case you want to get a little more of a workout. Finally, the crown jewel of the electronics on this bike is the huge and super bright LCD display. It shows you everything you need to keep an eye on, and it's so bright there's no problems reading it, even in the bright sun. Everything up until now looks great, and I wouldn't change a thing until I get to the bar and stem. Now I understand why Himiway spec'd the bike with a long stem and 700mm bars. The long stem will accommodate for larger and taller riders, and the 700mm bars are wide enough for most riders out there. But my background is with mountain bikes, and we're used to handlebars that get up to 800mm wide. Wider bars for me equals strength and stability. And that's important when you're riding over roots and rocks that just want to turn your front wheel in a bunch of different directions. I usually cut down my bars to 770mm. Also, a shorter stem is going to help me keep my body weight more centered on the bike instead of so far forward. Swapping these out is very easy and fairly inexpensive. I'll put a couple links in the description for affordable bars and stems you guys can check out to get your bike feeling just right. Now when you get your new bike, it comes in a box and there's a bit of work to do before hitting the trails. If you're new to bikes, don't be afraid. It's pretty simple and Himiway gives you everything you need in the box, including a great little multi-tool. Speaking of boxes, lifting an 80-pound bike out of a box is nearly impossible unless you're Hercules.
Look at me.
Oh! So here's a quick tip. Cut the sides of the box open like this. Be careful though. Make sure everything in the box is out of the way and your blade's not gonna cut through them. This makes it so much easier to get the bike out. Next, I recommend getting that small box of accessories and finding the keys for your battery. The battery should have a partial charge in it from the factory, but before your first ride, make sure it's fully charged. I usually take the battery out and charge it on the side while I assemble the rest of the bike. If you have a bike stand available that can hold the weight, it makes it so much easier, but it's not necessary. You can get everything done right on the ground. Once you have all the protective padding off the bike, first thing you're gonna wanna do is put the handlebars on. There's no need to tighten these down all the way quite yet. We'll be adjusting them after the front wheel goes on. If you're gonna be running the headlight, now's the time to install it. Having the front wheel out of the way makes this process way easier. When you're ready to put the front wheel on, start by removing the brake pad spacer from the front caliper, take the through axle out, and line up the rotor and hub into the brake caliper and front fork. This e-bike has through axles front and back, keeping the wheels in place even on the roughest terrain. Once you've tightened the axle, don't forget to tighten the safeties as well so that the axle doesn't come loose. The bike comes all tuned directly from the factory, but there's a small chance things get bumped in shipping. Once the wheels are on, give them a quick spin and make sure that the caliper is centered over your rotor. If you hear some brake rub, they're gonna need some adjustment. The best way to do that is by loosening the two bolts on either side of the caliper, holding a handful of brake lever, and tightening the bolts back up. This will center everything over the rotors and won't leave you with that annoying. Even an e-bike with a big motor and battery still needs pedals. This is a pretty simple process. They're labeled left and right, so don't mess that up. And finally, we adjust the cockpit. Loosen the stem, make sure the handlebars are straight and perpendicular with the front wheel. Tighten the top cap just enough not to have any play in the headset. You can test this by holding the front brake and rocking the bike back and forth. If it all feels good, then tighten the side bolts on the stem to the manufactured torque specs. I usually take a bit of time here to adjust the brake lever angles as well as the shifter and throttle. After doing a quick once-over tight test with the rest of the bolts on the bike, make sure you got enough air in your tires. And let's go for a ride. So the winter days are still short here and I ran out of daylight today, but I'll be taking this beast out to the trails tomorrow. If you want to see how this monster eats up the trails, click on this video right here. There's going to be jumps, berms, rocks, drops, jumps. I'll see you there.